If you guys only knew what we were seeing.
It wasn't porn.
You just... What was it? No, it wasn't. You just get the reactions we have, but everything goes crazy all of a sudden as soon as we go live. Anyway, welcome to Signature Wines. Yeah. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. I hope you have a glass of wine out there while you're watching.
Yeah, because that's the rules, you know. Like, if you watch, you have to have a glass of wine.
Yeah. And the more you drink, the better we sound.
There you go.
And look. So, today's topic is...
Condos.
What about condos? You know, if anyone has any questions, oh, I have to go on my, are you guys on your phone?
Yeah.
Yes.
Get with it.
I'm on it. Oh, there we are. Wait, but that's TJ.
There we go.
Take it over.
So Jenny's going to find herself. She's digging deep.
It's been a process. Can I just tell you?
So while she's doing that, I'll do her little intro. So today we're going to talk about buying condos. And buying condo seems like you're buying a house, but you're really not. You're buying a condo, and it is different. So there are important questions that you should ask. Ask your realtor, ask the condo, ask the association, and we're going to go over some of those questions. So TJ, what's your first question?
The very first question you need to ask yourself is how much are the association dues? Are they paid annually, quarterly, monthly? Because that's going to affect your new baseline for your mortgage payment.
And so, in addition to how much they are, you need to know what they cover. So, each condo association is probably a little bit different. I think there's pretty common themes. Sometimes it'll cover exterior maintenance, the entrance to the community. Sometimes it will add water and sewer and trash and those kinds of things. Snow plowing, all of those things that as a standalone homeowner that you would have to pay for or do. Sometimes those are collected as part of your homeowner association. But it's important to understand when you're paying that, what are you paying for? So if it's $200, $300, $400, and in some cases more per month.
And along with that, what extra amenities are you getting? So is there a gym or fitness facility? Is there a swimming pool? Is there a clubhouse? What sort of little extras are you getting for your money?
Yes. So, one important note is that when your lender does your payment and they give you your good faith estimate of how much you're going to pay per month, your condo dues will not be included in that. You're going to pay your condo dues outside of that. Your lender generally is not going to collect your condo dues.
And condo dues can be significant, so be wary of what they are prior to going to look at the condo, because I have seen them range from $100 a month, and then there is a condo building where the condos themselves sell for about $50,000, but the monthly fee is $1,000 or so. That is in downtown Columbus, but
there's one in Grandview.
Where typically the condo fees and some of those can be more than your mortgage.
So it can be a significant increase. But that's usually listed in the MLS for us to see. It should be anyway. So if it isn't on the information you're receiving from your agent, at least ask, because it should be there. And oftentimes too, lenders will take that into consideration as well with your mortgage payment. If they're aware that you're going to be looking at condos, they will give you an idea of what you can afford with that, because that factors into then your loan amount too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's going to,
what you can borrow.
It's going to affect how much you can afford, and your lender is certainly going to want to know that, and it's going to impact how much money you can borrow. So it is an important factor to take into account.
And while we're talking affordability, you need to realize that there may be a transfer fee. So in order to join that condominium association, there may be a fee involved. There are places like that all over Central Ohio, and you'll have to know who's going to pay that at closing. Because someone's going to have to come up with that money.
Yep.
Can that be negotiable?
Everything's negotiable.
Keep in mind, in this market, it's a seller's market generally. Condos, sometimes you can have a little bit more flexibility. There's a lot harder for a condo to stand out, I think, from a single family home, because as opposed to having a home that is somewhat at least unique, condos in a development are generally out of the same mold. So depends on the health of the condo the community. So I think that comes back, but it is, everything's negotiable. Who's going to pay? If a seller is more motivated to sell their condo, you may be able to get them to pay, your transfer fees or even a certain number of months of the condo dues up front for you. So, but those things are something to talk about with your realtor and whether or not it's appropriate for your situation.
Also be wary of the fact that those fees go up.
Yes.
My friend Andrew Widows mentioned this morning when we were talking about Wine Wednesday and what the topic was, be sure to mention that because that is a very important thing. When there are repairs done to the community or just in general, if the, would you call it the health of the COA, those fees can increase at any point too. So, and there's no way of knowing how much those will.
Which leads into the important question. Each condo, probably by its bylaws, or there has to be a certain level of reserve for the condo. So when they collect your dues, ideally they're not spending 100% of the dollars you're putting in there. Just like as a homeowner, if you have to replace the roof or the windows or pave your driveway, those are significant costs. So your association should be building in money that goes into a reserve so that when those big repairs comes up, they've got money to cover it. Now, does that always happen?
No. There is a homeowners association for a resort community southeast of here, and they had to do a major dam repair. And that was something that was not foreseeable. They didn't have the money in reserve, so they had to do a special assessment for every property owner. That special assessment was voted on by the residents in order to make that happen, but it wasn't there, so they had to tack on as an assessment.
Surprise!
And so, as the seller should disclose if there's an assessment, but it is a question that you should ask, because those things, they generally don't come out of nowhere. I mean, that it can be months-long discussions amongst the association of, how much is going to, they're probably getting bids, they're going to figure out how much it's going to cost, and then how much per owner. So that assessment is, has some time in the making, and if you're in the midst of buying one, you want to ask, are there any assessments coming up? Because you're going to end up having to pay it, and that's definitely part of the transaction. It can affect the value that you pay. So make sure to ask that question. So.
When you're talking about the homeowners association, that brings up a good point. Attend a homeowners association meeting if you can ahead of time. Get to know who the players are, and even see if you can get copies of the minutes. Because your seller may not attend these meetings, so they may not know what's coming down the pike. But your agent should be able to help you do that research in order to see sort of what's going on. Maybe talk to some other people who are active in the association.
So along those lines too, if you talking about the minutes, when we write an offer for your condo, say we've gone through the process, we've gone looking, you found the one you absolutely have to have, and we write the offer. Good point, and I don't know that every agent does this, however I do, and I'm sure Wayne and TJ do as well, but there is a clause to be added asking for all the documents that go with the condo, meaning bylaws, minutes, the financial statements, the rules for the condo association, because there will be that. I mean, there is a whole slew of stuff that we can get and acquire for you from the COA. So minutes being one of them.
Yes, and it's as readily accessible as they are. Depends on who's managing that community.
Right.
So if it's professionally managed, you're gonna have someone that's dedicated to managing just that. Well, not just that property. They're probably managing others, but you have someone that's been designated to manage it on behalf of the owners. There are also situations in smaller communities, or if you have like a fourplex, where the owners have probably elected a president who is the contact for the association. So finding out who that contact is and having a direct conversation with that contact is good. Don't rely solely on us as your realtor or the documents that you receive from the association. Actually talk to them, and you'll get a better sense in a conversation, and some will be more open with their words than others, but you need to be comfortable with this, because you're buying more than a piece of property. You're buying into an association, and that association's equally as important as the property. And I think that's one of the main differences in buying a single family house. You're no longer relying just on you, you're relying on other people, and you know how it is when other people get involved. It's not as easy, so.
Another difference with association, or not, with condos, purchasing them when it comes to time to make the offer that you need to be aware of too, is that they don't all accept FHA or VA financing. Your agent should be aware of that in the listing, but it's always something to, throws me off every time. Sorry.
I'm trying to see who's on, and if you're asking questions. Sorry.
I'll tell my BFF Amy Long is on.
Yes, she is.
And hi,
cheers,
Sarah.
Amy.
Cheers,
Bye.
Amy. Cheers, everyone watching.
Cheers, Charlene and Michelle.
After that little break. But anyway, so not all financing is acceptable for that, and the reason being, and please, any lenders watching, chime in on this in case I get it wrong, but there is oftentimes a rental scenario going on in condos. People buy the condos and then rent them out, and if there's a certain amount of rentals, then the VA and FHA won't actually finance
Right.
in there. So.
Yep. So that's a good point. And there are programs. Condos, after the 2007-2008 collapse of mortgage market and the economy, a lot of things with condos changed, in particular, and I think a lot of it came out of South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Huge condo market, huge condo developments that, people putting $100,000 deposits down and walking away from their deposit because they were going to lose less money that way than if they actually went through the purchase. So the FHA said, whoa, we need to back up here, and we're going to have to put some rules in place.
Yeah.
Those things are starting to loosen now that the market has gotten better, and I think that a lot of things were learned during that time. And there are programs out there to get you financed, but there are communities, as Jenny was saying, that are FHA approved. And if it's FHA approved, then you can get an FHA loan in that community. Just because you can't do an FHA, there are some you're going to probably have to put more money down, because FHA you can put as little as 3.5. But doing a loan that's not an FHA loan in a condo community that's technically a non-conforming loan or a portfolio loan, as I think a lender would call it, it's going to cost you probably at least 10% down. So it may preclude you from actually purchasing the condo that you want. Right. So find out up front. Even before you go to the condo, your realtor can find out whether or not it's FHA approved. Because if that's the kind of loan you can get or that you want to get, that's going to be an important.
Yeah, it is important because you can't.
Right.
If they won't give you the loan.
Right. But speaking of those rules, it's also important, before you even put that offer in, get a copy of the condo association rules so that you can see if it's someplace that you would even be happy with living. I always tell people this because it's somewhat of a joke, but if the rules for the condominium or the homeowners association says that you can have no more than 2 pets totaling 40 pounds altogether, and you have 3 German Shepherds, that's not going to be a good fit for you. Right. And you don't want to get to the point where you put in an offer and all of a sudden you realize you can't bring your precious dogs with you.
Right. Or you close, you get to the point of closing, and then the homeowners association is going to come after you, and you're going to have to either move or rehome your dogs. And we're all 3 dog lovers, so I can't even imagine.
I rehome myself.
Which raises another point. In a lot of these condo associations, there's a certain percentage of renters allowed. So if you're planning, you think you're going to buy this as your starter home, and then someday you think, okay, well, I'm just going to live in it for a little while until I save up enough money to buy, a bigger house or a standalone house. And then I'm just going to rent it out. And if that's part of your long-term plan or something you think you're going to want to do, you're going to want to look and see whether or not A, you're allowed to rent it according to those condo rules, and B, what percentage of units in that development can be rented, because that's what goes back to what TJ started with the FHA thing, is that there's a certain percentage that can be rented for it to still be FHA approved. And if you go over that percentage, then you can't rent it.
Yeah.
So just be aware of the rules.
Yeah.
And you familiarize yourself with them. 'cause
And
you don't
those
wanna-
rules can change too. I'm sorry. I was just thinking I had a listing that was a condo, and a lot of people were calling because that was their plan. They wanted to buy it and then at some point rent it out or rent it out immediately. And while the time of purchase that was going to be allowed within a few months of it closing and the people buying it, the association was voting to actually not have any more rentals allowed at all, and that the terms of the rental were changing. You could rent it, but only to a family member for a period of 12 months.
Right.
So there's a lot to be aware of. You're not, I get condo living, it makes sense to me. I can see why I would want to do it myself or why someone would want to do it, but there are, I always say it's like the 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Did I say that?
Yeah.
No, I said a dozen of one. All that stuff. 6 of one, whatever. Anyway, the point being, there's a lot more rules, and while it is your own, you own it to some aspect, you really are giving up a lot too, freedoms of just that single-family home. That
Right. And let's talk about for a second, some of those benefits.
Okay.
Why you would want to.
Mhm.
Why would I want to
Why
live
would
there?
you want to live in a
Yeah.
condo? And me personally, I just sold and purchased a home and had strongly considered a condo.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons for me was I hated taking care of the yard. I didn't
Right.
want to do it anymore.
And you don't have to.
Mhm.
Right. So you buy into a condo, and then a large percentage, if not most, if not all, are going to take care of your exterior.
Mhm.
So the siding, the lawn, the driveway, whatever, snow removal, all
Ice.
that stuff that you either like to do or you don't like to do, and I fell in the don't like to do category.
So it makes sense.
But I still bought a single family home.
Yeah.
I mean, go figure. But in any case, those are some of the benefits, and to me, that's highly desirable. But
Mhm.
I think that's one of the things that attracts people, because if you're not handy, owning a home requires maintenance,
Mhm.
regardless of where you live.
Mhm.
Things are going to break. You're going to have to fix it, and it's going to cost money.
Right.
Do you want to be the one to be responsible for it, or are you okay paying the condo dues and then the condo takes care of it? And
Right.
that's a question I think to ask yourself to determine. If you're a first-time home buyer, I think condos can be great for first-time
Yeah,
buyers.
yeah.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Well, and I think too, they can bring with them a sense of community. Growing up in a small town, we definitely had that, and even over in my neighborhood now, it feels like a very strong community. And you've got these neighbors, and you all have a similar life and similar shared experiences, so it can bring with it that sense of stronger community, and that may be very desirable to you.
So you kind of have to be a social person too. I mean,
Sometimes.
in that, if you buy an interior unit, you've got people on both sides of you. I mean, you don't have to go out and say hi and do all that stuff, but it's just a lot of people sometimes in an area. So it can't be one of those where you're just, I don't know. Do you
if
understand
you
what
like
I'm
to
saying?
entertain and have big parties,
Yeah,
this
that's probably-
may not be
the scenario.
But it brings up a question a lot of people have, because a lot of people think that condominiums are all attached units related to either apartment or townhouse living. That's not always the case.
Not always,
That's true.
right?
Because
very true.
you can find detached condominiums or simply a group of homes that have a homeowners association where there's still single-family homes,
Right.
but you still have some of the cost and some of the benefits of the homeowners association. So
Right.
each one's
Exactly.
different.
And there are some developers around town
Mhm.
who are building these condos and in different parts of towns, in all different kinds of living environments. If you like to be more in an urban, dense population with walkability, there's some in the short north Victorian Village, Harrison West neighborhoods.
Mhm.
Right.
There's some in the suburbs,
Mhm.
and there's a few developers in particular that are developing these standalone condos. And personally, I think they're beautiful.
Mhm.
Absolutely, they are. Right.
And so if you've thought about single family, or you've really eliminated condos from what you've been considering, don't let condo, and it's a very good point, I'm glad you brought it up, don't let condo to you just mean, kind of a glorified apartment
Right,
building.
right.
Because it's not always the case,
Mhm.
So there are different options out there. So in this market, inventory is tight. So,
Mhm.
people are not being forced, but are starting to consider options that they didn't once consider before. So talk to your realtor about condos if it's something that, from either our talk here or when you start looking around about other options, because there are those options out there for you. So.
And one other point that you brought up earlier that I think is important to circle back on is whose insurance pays for what? The condominium association is going to have insurance and you're going to have insurance, which is not really the same as homeowners insurance. So generally what I tell people is whatever you can see from the paint inside of your house is what your insurance is going to cover, and generally speaking the condominium association is going to cover everything outside of that.
Right.
Once again, it's different for each association, but
and each insurance policy.
So you need to look at what their insurance covers versus what yours covers, because it's going to be a difference.
Right. But it's another thing that's part of what you're paying into the association for, is that they're going to cover, in most cases, the exterior of the building, lightning strikes, the building catches on fire. You almost, I think it's more of a renter's policy in a condo. So your insurance, while it may not be half or whatever, your insurance will be a little bit cheaper in a condo because you are not paying in your policy directly to insure the structure. You're paying for more of your belongings, and like TJ said, drywall in kind of thing. And let's talk about ownership of a condo. So to that point, when you own a condo, what you technically own are air rights. You own from the walls in all the way up through the sky. So you own the air rights up directly through your unit, unless you live in a unit where they're stacked on top of each other. So in any case, you don't own the building. You're basically ownership share of the condo association. So
there was a project that I was working on trying to reclaim for the Central Ohio Development Corporation, Poindexter Towers. And that was 99 separate units. And in order to consolidate those, the Central Ohio Community Improvement Corporation had to get 99 deeds because everyone owned a portion of that area in order to redevelop the property.
Yep. Cheers, Kevin. We will have a glass for you. He said, Kevin G, one of my friends said, have a glass for me.
I can do that.
So we will.
After this one. So that brings up a good point of who fixes what when you're living in there. I mean, that with the insurance, I mean, what are you responsible for as far as if something breaks or you put a hole in the drywall, or
if there's maintenance later?
Yeah.
And one of the big things is windows.
Yes.
Find out in your condo rules who's responsible for replacing windows, because inevitably over the course of the life of a building, windows are going to have to be replaced. They're just not a lifetime investment. So find out who is responsible, who has to pay for the windows when they have to be replaced, because windows can run $300 to $1,000 or more each. So, knowing who's going to be the one that's going to have to foot that bill when the time comes is important. And also, if the building's not new or if it's older, is that something that's going to have to be replaced soon? And your condo association or the community where you live can say, there's a time period in which those windows have to be replaced. And then there you are, strapped with an additional cost. And I know all of this sounds scary. It sounds like there's more involved in it than there really is. 9 times out of 10, you're going to live a happy, peaceful life in your condo and never have major issues.
But I have
it's all about preparing yourself.
Right. Just in case. I mean, the whole point of these Wine Wednesdays in real estate is to bring knowledge to the table and to really cover things that, while some of it may be extreme, it's all benefiting you. It's knowledge, and knowledge is power. So, you go into a scenario where you're educated, you know what to look for, you know what you need your agent to be checking for, so we may get, like Wayne said, extreme, but
ultimately it affects value is what it comes down to. And if you're writing an offer on a condo, how do you know how much to offer for the condo?
Right.
When you need, it's just like buying a single family home. Don't ever fall for the smoke and mirrors. A lot of sellers pay money to stage, and they make it nice and it looks from the, first glance, a wonderful opportunity. And as realtors, not saying we're trying to hide anything, but you want your house to show as best that it possibly can.
Right.
Yeah.
But look
Yeah.
beneath the surface there and
Right.
really dig in past personal belongings in the house that's making it look that way, to see what is the condition of this house and what am I really buying.
Yeah.
And that's true of a condo
Or a single family,
family.
yeah.
But those are things, that are obviously going to affect how much you want to pay in the end.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So has anybody asked anything? Because I've got a question here.
Okay.
Michelle's asking, what's the deal with LC Community, the GOAT condos? Now, that is a rental community.
Yes.
So different than buying a condo, but I know they do have,
I think Lifestyle
Real-
does have for sale properties.
Mhm.
yeah, so,
And sometimes you'll have things, complexes that were rentals before, then the management company decides to sell them as condos.
Right.
So as the leases
Right.
come up, they come out for sale. But I don't know if that's the case with the GOAT or not. I know that was the case over in Victorian Gate.
yeah. Well, there's an area in Hilliard too, Mill Run, that was the same. It had been apartments, and then they decided to turn it into condos. So it all depends on the area. I mean, if there's a scenario or an area where you're interested in and you have an agent working for you, ask, and they can definitely look into it and make phone calls and see
Right.
if that's not something you're comfortable doing.
And so let's bring up something here really quick about, since you brought up, Lifestyle Communities, which is a builder and, and an owner. So let's talk about builders for just
Okay.
a second. So a few myths here, and in particular, there's a lot of condo development going on. So if you have an agent and you're working with an agent and you walk into a condo community and they
That's
slide this
building.
form across the table and say, fill this out, and there's the question on there about, are you working with a realtor? So you need to put your realtor's name. If you've got a relationship with a realtor, I shouldn't say you need, like I'm bossing you around.
You have to.
Yes, so, but you really should put your realtor's name on there, because I think there's a misperception amongst consumers that if I don't have a realtor, that they will negotiate price with me because they don't have to pay a realtor, or
Yeah.
that I really don't need a realtor for a new build. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
Right.
Do you know all of these questions and the answers that we've just been talking about? We know what to ask. And it's not that the developer or the builder is going to mislead you in any of it.
Right.
Hopefully not. But you really need someone on your side in this.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment you slide that card back across the table without your realtor's name on it, you just cut your realtor out of it, and now you're on your own.
Yeah.
So it is an important thing for you, because the sales reps, as nice and as friendly as they are there, and they're working for the seller,
Right.
not
Who's the
you.
builder, not the buyer.
And so, and that's when you're building as well. I mean,
Yeah,
the
that
options-
covers all new builds.
Yeah, the options that are going into the condo.
Right.
But all those prices are set in stone, aren't they?
Well, yes and no. Another myth, they're not going to negotiate price with you.
No negotiating.
They will not negotiate.
Currently.
In this market,
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
will not. They're not going to come down off their price.
No. Only goes up.
Yeah, and the more they build, the more that price goes up. So the further you are along in the stage of that development, the more it's going to cost you.
Right.
But along those lines, when you're choosing your options, you go in and the condo says, for instance, it starts at $200,000, but then you start adding this option, that option, and the next thing you know, you're at $300,000.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know what is a smart investment? Because ultimately, you're more than likely not going to live in this place forever, and most people 4 to 5 years, and they've moved on to the next one. So you spend $100,000. Was that a wise move? Well, the builder's rep gets paid a percentage of everything they sell. Is it a good idea to do that $100,000 for you? Maybe, but it's good to have someone objective, there to advise you. So I'll leave that at that. But yeah, you're not getting a discount because you don't have a realtor.
No, yeah, no, they don't discount at all.
So,
On any.
so in any case, I just wanted to bring that
Yeah,
up.
no, that's
because-
very valid.
Because, we are here to serve you, and and that is our only goal here.
Right.
Is to get what's best for you.
Mhm.
So, in any case. So I think that covers most of the stuff that
I
we
think
left.
so
out.
too,
With
yeah,
condos or-
yeah.
I think
Anybody
it is.
have a question?
If there's any questions, certainly leave them in the comments here, private message us,
Mhm.
email. And we didn't mention, but we are coming, in case you couldn't tell today, from Signature Wines. Signature Wines is a local winery here in Columbus,
Mhm.
and there's all their
Havana.
contact information.
Mhm.
So please visit them on their website or in person.
In
They are-
person on Saturdays for wine tasting.
They're open from 1 to 6 on Saturdays.
And
They have
during
a
the
number of
week,
special
too.
events, so if you visit them in their social
They
pages.
have a Facebook page.
Mhm.
Yes, visit.
Check them out.
And one thing that you get from Signature Wines is they bring in the grapes from California. So it's not like a lot of people go up and they're used to a lot of the fruitier wines that are typically found in Ohio, but you're getting really good quality wines here.
Yes. And they're great guys, and we appreciate them having us.
Very
and-
much so. Fantastic place.
And
One of these days we'll take you on a tour around.
Yeah.
So you can see what all is going on. Because this is a working winery. They've got the barrels over there and the steel barrels and
they have some barrels that have been aging in here for 20 years,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's amazing.
Mhm.
So,
great place.
but anyways,
We digress.
yes. Again, if you have questions, we do have a gift to give away for someone that asks a question. So please leave it in the comments, and it's not for a while.
La Trafagua. That's
It's-
not what it's called anyway.
It's Le Trois.
No, this
No,
is
it's
a
Zinfandel.
Oh, Zinfandel.
We
This
got
is
the
the easy
Zinfandel
one.
for you to
So,
try,
yes.
so yeah.
Oh, and last week's winner was Corey. He won our box of chocolates.
Go Corey.
Go
Go
Corey.
Corey.
But anyways, thank you so much. We'll look forward to seeing you again next Wednesday. And until then,
Hey, and here's an idea too. If you guys have any topics you want us to cover,
Yes.
feel free to reach out,
Mhm.
private message, text,
yeah, let us know
email.
what your other topics you'd like to hear. We like to cover them. So.
If you'd like to have us help you buy
Yes.
or sell too, feel free to reach out anytime.
How can we help you?
Absolutely.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers all.
Bye.
All right,
Thanks.
shut this down.
Bottom right.
Oh.